In this video, we will be talking about dividing polynomials. So most of you guys probably have seen long division before. I'm going to show you what long division is, and I'll also show you what synthetic division is. So the first thing that we kind of want to remind ourselves is, how do we really divide just two basic numbers? So 172 divided by 5. So you've learned kind of from grade school how to do that, and you kind of want to think about how many fives can fit into one. Well, that's silly. There's no way that you can fit 5 things into one thing. So you want to go into the next digit, which is 17. So then you want to think about how many times can 5 fit into 17. Okay. So if you think about it, that would be 3. Okay. So then what we do is we multiply it. So 3 times 5 gives me 15. We subtract on the bottom. So we're left here with a 3. And then we bring down this 2. So this 2 is going to be brought down. How many times does 5 fit into 32? That's just going to be 6. Multiply that out, so you get 30. Subtract one more time, and you're left with a 2. So you're left with something called a remainder of 2. Later on, when we learned about fractions, you know that you can write 36 and 2/5. Okay? And actually, this mixed number is just another way to say 36 plus 2/5, because you're taking the remainder and the divisor here. So these are things that we kind of have learned in grade school, and we're actually going to use them again in here in this section. Okay? So let's just jump right in there. So let's just go ahead and just do an example where we want to divide this polynomial. Okay, so you want to divide 2x cubed minus 3x squared plus 4x plus 5. And we want to divide this by x plus 2. Okay? So what is this going to be? Well, we're going to set it up the way that we were doing the regular division. So we're going to set it up the following way. So we're going to have 2x cubed minus 3x squared plus 4x plus 5. Okay, and we're going to divide it by x plus 2. Now this inside is what we call the dividend. The outside is what we call the divisor. Okay? Now the way that we want to do it is that we want to make sure that we have here, see how we have 2 terms? So we're going to look at the first 2 terms here. And the goal here is that we want to get rid of this 2x cubed. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to use this x value to get rid of this 2x cubed. So let's think about it. What number can I multiply this x squared, this x, to get this 2x cubed? Well, that would be 2x squared. Okay, so if and the x squared, the 2x squared is going to go right above the x squares, 2x squared, because think about them as place values. Okay, so x squares are going to go with the x squares. Okay, so you're going to have 2x squared. So let's go ahead and multiply this out. So 2x squared times x gives me 2x cubed. Okay, and then 2x squared times 2 is going to give me a positive 4x squared. Okay, now what happens when we had something on the bottom? What we did is we subtracted. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to subtract. So think about, we're changing the sign. So this guy's going to change into a minus. This guy's going to change into a minus. Okay, this thing goes away, and I'm left with a negative 7x squared. Okay, now what we're going to do is bring down the 4x. And now we're going to do this again. So what can I multiply this x right here so that I can get a negative 7x squared? Well, that's just a negative 7x. So if I multiply this by a negative 7x, I'm going to get a negative 7x squared. Negative 7x times 2 is going to give me a negative 14x. Okay, remember again, what did we do? We changed the sign to a minus. Well, here there's already a minus, so this is going to change into a plus and a plus. Okay, so this is going to go away, and what you're left with is this 18x. Okay, now we're going to bring out the last number, which is the 5. So I add 5. Okay, So now we want to get rid of this 18x. So what can I multiply this x by to get an 18x? Well, that's just going to be just a regular 18. So that's going to give me 18x over here. And then 18x times 2 is just going to give me, what is that, 36. Okay. Remember that the signs are going to change here. So this is going to be a minus. This is going to be a minus. This goes away, and I'm left with a negative 31. So that's my remainder. So how do I write this? Well, this is going to be plus this negative 31, which is our remainder, divided by this divisor, which is going to be x plus 2. So what we say is the way that we kind of want to write it is the following way. We want to write it that 2x cubed minus 3x squared plus 4x plus 5 divided by x plus 2 is equal to 2x squared minus 7x plus 18 minus, because you have this minus and a plus minus, 31 over x plus 2. This is going to be my final answer. Okay? And right now, it may not make sense of like, why are we doing this? How does this tie into polynomial functions? Well, right now, it doesn't quite tie into polynomial functions, but it will. It will tie in, mainly because it'll help us find zeros and it'll help us factor things that are not factorable. But right now, let's just go ahead and just work with long division. Okay, so let's do another example doing long division. Okay, so let's say you want to divide 16x cubed minus 12x squared plus 20x minus 3. And we want to divide this by 4x plus 5. So let's say you want to do that. Okay, you can pause the video if you want to try it out. I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with 16x cubed minus 12x squared plus 20x minus 3. And I'm going to divide that by 4x plus 5. Okay. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to try to get rid of the 16x cubed. Okay, so we're going to have to multiply this 4x by something to get rid of that 16x cubed, or make it the same. So I'm going to multiply this by 4x. Okay, and I'm going to have a squared there because I have to get rid of the x cubes, and I also have to get rid of the 16. So this is going to give me 16x cubed over here. And then 4x squared times 5 is going to give me a positive 20x squared. So this is going to change into subtraction. Oops. Subtraction. So this goes away. And I'm left with a negative 22x squared. Okay. Now I'm going to bring down this, oh, wait a minute, negative 32. Okay, and now I'm going to bring down this 20x. All right, and you think about what can I multiply this 4x to get this negative 32x squared. Okay, so what I'm going to multiply this by is going to be an 8. So I'm going to make it into a negative 8x. So multiply this out, so negative 8x times that is going to give me negative 32x squared. That's going to give me a negative 40x. Okay, remember again, this is going to give me a opposite sign. So this is going to turn into a positive. This is going to turn into a positive. That goes away. Here I have 60x. Okay, and I'm going to bring down this negative 3. What can I multiply by 4x to get this 60x? Well, that's just going to be 15. So I'm going to add 15 here. Plus 15, that's going to give me a 60x. Okay, this 15 times this 5 is going to give me a 75. Okay, positive 75. Okay, so let's just change this to a minus, this to a minus. This goes away, and I'm left with negative 78. Okay, So I'm going to have a plus negative 78 divided by 4x plus 5. So this would be the final division. So you can write it like 4x squared minus 8x plus 15 minus 78x 78 over 4x plus 5. Okay, so this is going to be the answer to the division of 16x cubed minus 12x squared plus 20x minus 3 divided by 4x plus 5. Okay, so that's basically the answer. Okay, the reason why we're writing it like this is because later on it's going to be very useful to write it like this. But for right now, if you can write it, you can just leave your answer like this. But if you make it like this, it'll be really useful. Now, long division is a really good way to divide two different polynomials together. Now, there's another way that you can try to divide polynomials, okay? And that's something called synthetic division. Okay? And basically what synthetic division is just a shorthand method of dividing polynomials for the special case of dividing a linear, okay, factor whose leading coefficient okay is 1. Okay, so it's just a shorthand method of dividing polynomials for the special case of dividing a linear factor whose leading coefficient is 1. So let's say you have a polynomial and you're dividing it by a linear factor like x plus 3, or it could be x plus 2 or x minus 3. As long as the leading coefficient of this guy is a 1, then you can use synthetic division. Now, if it's a 2, you can still do it. We're just not going to look at those cases. Okay? So, the way that I'm going to do it, I'm going to kind of show you a little bit of what exactly you're going to be, what exactly it is. So, what I want you to do is you can think about, let me go over here. Let me give you this example. So, let's say you wanted to divide 2x cubed minus 3x squared plus 4x plus 5 divided by x plus 2. Okay? I ended up doing it anyway. Okay, so you can pause it if you want, and you can try to do it and see if I got it correctly. So I ended up doing it, but what I really want to do and show you is kind of show you what synthetic division kind of looks like hand to hand with long division, because one of the things about long division is that it's really easy to mess up the steps. First of all, there's negative signs all over the place that you might forget. There's a lot of x's. There's a lot of things going on just in general. So synthetic division actually is going to be a really easy way to kind of do this a lot faster. So the way that you kind of do it is that, so this is long division. So here's synthetic. So we're going to start off by kind of drawing like the division little house thing, but kind of upside down. And then we're going to use the numbers inside the division, which are basically the numbers in the numerator. We're only going to look at the leading coefficients. So 2, -3, 4, and 5. So we're going to just look at those. Now, one of the main mistakes about synthetic division, or just division in general, is the minuses. What's happening below. When we're subtracting the numbers, we sometimes forget them. So one thing to just kind of remedy is just we're going to take the constant right below it, and we're going to change the sign. So instead of a +2, we're going to make it into a -2. Okay. And synthetic division is very straightforward. So the way that you're going to do it, you're going to start out with the first number, bring it down. So that's going to give me a 2. And now once we have that, we're going to multiply this very similarly how we multiply it in long division. So we're going to multiply these two numbers together, negative 2 times 2, and the result is going to go to the next entry, which is going to be a 4. Okay? So, negative 4. So that's going to be negative 4 because negative 2 times 2 was negative 4. We're going to add these two numbers together. That's going to give me negative 7. Okay? Then you're going to take this negative 2, multiply it by this negative 7. It's going to give me a positive 14. I'm going to add the 4 and the 14 again. That's going to give me 18. Then finally, I'm going to multiply this negative 2 by this 18. It's going to give me negative 36. Add them, you're going to get negative 31. And we're going to stop right there. Now, these numbers should look very familiar. These numbers right here are basically the coefficients of the quotient. Okay? And notice that we did that in a less messier way. And actually what you're doing here is it's a little trick. Basically what you're doing is like you're filling in all these spaces with all these numbers. So it's just a quick and easy way to kind of do it. Now, one way that kind of helps me remember what it was with what, I look at the leading term, which is going to be x cubed. Since I'm dividing out an x, that means the next thing should be x squared. That means this guy should be an x squared, 2x squared. The next one should be an x, negative 7x. This guy shouldn't have no x, plus 18. This guy's just a remainder, negative 31, and that's going to be divided by whatever this was, which is just the x plus 2. So notice that you kind of get it in a really quick and easy way to do it. So really easy to do. The only thing that's really subtle is this outside part, that you have to change that to a minus. Now this will only work if this is a linear factor. If you do something different, there's other ways that you can do it, but that's not quite what we're going to be doing here. So here's another way that you can kind of do division, but using synthetic division. So let's do a couple of examples and then to really make sure that we kind of understand it. Okay. So let's try this one. Let's try something when there's some missing factor. So let's say you have 5x squared minus 3x minus 36 divided by x plus 5. And then let's also do x cubed plus 1 divided by x minus 1. Okay, let's say we have something that look like that. So let's start off by using synthetic division on the first one. We're going to start off by drawing kind of like this thing upside down. We're going to write down all the coefficients. We're going to write the 5, the negative 3, and the negative 36. Notice that there's no missing terms in here. Okay. Then on the outside, we're going to change the sign of this guy to a negative 5. Bring down the 5 first. You're going to get a 5. And then we're going to multiply it. That's going to give me negative 25. So this guy is just going to give me negative 28. Okay. Then we're going to multiply it again. So 28 times 5. That's going to give me 140. It's positive. Then 140 minus 36 is going to give me 104. Okay, this is where we end. So basically, notice that this was an x squared, so it's going to go one less, so it's going to be 5x minus 28 plus 104 divided by x plus 5. So this guy right here is my division. And now let's do this last one. Now you have to be careful here because you have an x cubed plus 1. There's some missing terms here. You're missing the x squared term and the x term. Okay? So what you're going to have to do is you have to place some place values to make sure that you know that there's actually a missing x squared and an x term. So what you're going to do is you're going to put the 1 first, because that's like the leading coefficient on the x cubed. Since there's no x squared, we're going to write 0. We're going to write 0 for the x and then the 1 for the last term. Okay. Now we're going to look at the bottom. You have a negative 1. We're going to change the sign to a positive 1. Okay. And now finally, we're just going to use synthetic division. Bring the 1 down. 1 times 1 gives me 1. Add it again, you're going to get another 1. 1 times 1 is going to give me another 1. That's going to give me another 1. And you get another 1. And then finally, you just get a 2. So basically, notice that this was an x cubed. It's going to be 1 degree less, so it's x squared. So it's going to be 1x squared plus 1x plus another 1. And then you have a 2 over x minus 1. So this will be the solution for this last problem. Okay, so synthetic division, really quick and easy way to do it, as long as the bottom one is a linear factor and the leading coefficient on the denominator is a 1.